Right, guys, give me a couple of minutes. The other side, I think there are still some technical issue. So we'll probably start in the next 5 minutes, right? So you're in here early or is it on time? Just give us a couple of minutes to settle the technical issues and then we'll get started for the session in about 5 minutes time, yeah? Okay, we'll be getting started. Those that just joined in, okay, give us another about couple of minutes. We'll be getting started soon. All right, just the other side that's having some technical issue. Once we solve that, in the next couple of minutes, and we'll get started for today's session over here. Okay, we'll get started. Right, so okay, sorry for the delay. There's just quite a tiny bit of technical issue on the other side, so I think it's solved right now, so we can get started. Okay, good. So everything it's fine now, right? So again, welcome to today's session over here. Right, so as usual, it's our weekly Monday market analysis where I'll share with you what are some of the events to take note of, some of the analysis and opportunities for the week. And then after that, we'll do a quick Q&A, okay, and we'll then wrap up this session to update you in terms of some of the kind of future events, in terms of offline and online that we're gonna have, and then we'll wrap up for the week, okay. So first thing first, let's take a look at the events calendar. Very quick kind of very quick kind of summarize what has happened last week. Okay, so last week over here, SMB actually hiked rates. Not much of a surprise. The market actually anticipated that. Bank of England actually had a surprise 0.5% hike. Okay, so initially we're expecting 0.25, but we kind of got a 5% hike over there. Okay, give me a while, yeah. Okay, and over here, last Friday, okay, we do have some PMI data coming in, and generally, we can't get a lot of disappointment, right? So we can't see the euro actually sell off last Friday. Now, that's a quick summary of what happened last week. Now, if you take a look at this week here, it's relatively quiet as compared to what we have last week. Okay, so in terms of tomorrow, we do have the Canadian CPI data, so definitely that's important because that's essentially inflationary data, and that's the part where you want to pay a little bit more attention to it. And if you are more like a news trader, looking to capitalize on some of the short-term volatility, okay, you can actually look into that for tomorrow CPI data from the CAD side. Wednesday, we do have a couple of speeches, right, from UK, BOJ, as well as in terms of Fed. Again, speeches are quite difficult to trade. You never know what's going to be mentioned. But just take note that that might create some kind of volatility in the market. Okay, so just at least have that in mind. And then after that, on Friday, we have the core PCE price index from the US. That's again a pretty important data because the Fed actually tracked this piece of information as part of their inflationary kind of metric. Okay, so this week is generally not so many data that's important. The one that you probably can trade off is the CAD side on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. And the other one is the core PCE price index, which is happening on Friday. Okay, so I think these are the only two data that you may be able to trade off using some kind of news technique, okay, straddle or a breakout technique to get involved in the volatility of these news surprises. Okay, so with that said, let's take a look at the charts overall. First up, we'll start off with the dollar index over here. Now, last Friday, we did see the dollar index actually strengthen quite a bit. In terms of the wave structure over here, we may have seen a 5-wave move to the downside completed. Okay, last Friday's move were pretty impulsive as a whole, right? So this kind of little bit of a V-shaped bounce. We do have this part here breaking the previous low, so that gives us a potential 3, 4, 5, and this may be a wave A in that may have completed, and we're looking at a wave B development. So my expectation for this week essentially is if we can get a corrective pullback, right? So again, Monday market may be a little bit slow, but suppose that we're going into tomorrow, we see a little bit of push up, see a little bit of push back down. Okay, so maybe going into Tuesday and Wednesday, we can see kind of a flat structure over here with the completion around like 15,618. That would definitely give us a decent buy opportunity in terms of dollar. Okay. So this week, general direction for me is bullish on the dollar. I'll be looking at buying the dollar for the week. If you translate that to euro, okay, that's where we're gonna get quite a very nice inverse relationship right now. Same thing over here. You can see last week we can't see a sell-off on Friday. So we have wave 3, wave 5 over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 may be completed. We're looking at an A, B, C. So if we can get a corrective development of wave B here, okay, then of course around the 15,618 will be a decent sell opportunity for the week. Okay, so this week I'm looking at this opportunity, right, selling the euro to the downside. How far this can go, if you're more conservative, you simply pull the fibs, from swing low to swing high. You may target somewhere around maybe the 618, 50 to 618 zone for the sell take profit, right? Of course, if you take a look at the 618, we kind of come quite nice to the previous structure there as well. So that may be presenting, a pretty decent target for any sell trade that you may have. Right, so for me, euro dollar, I think is one of the clearer setups that we can pay attention to this week. Right, the setup may come to you maybe tomorrow or even Wednesday. Okay, and then we'll look to sell that. Okay, GBP USD. Pound dollar overall, I'm a little bit on the bullish side of things, but still waiting for a obvious and clear kind of like setup for me to get involved in it. I think right now, looking at how this is developing, if I were to use another FIP measurement, okay, we're probably looking at somewhere around this zone where we can get a potential bounce, okay, somewhere between 1.2680 to 1.2640. Okay, that would be the area of interest to look for a potential buy. So pound dollar here is a little bit different from the euro dollar analysis that we have, right? Euro dollar, we're looking at 5-wave completed, looking at sell opportunity. But GBP USD over here, we're looking at potentially a 1, 2, 3, and then wave 4 is still in development, and we're expecting a 5th wave up, right? So the focus on pound dollar here is to look for buy, which kind of also align a little bit into the fundamental of it, because inflationary pressure in the UK is still very, very high. In fact, last week, CPI data from the UK did not drop, right? It maintained as high as like the previous month. And the Bank of England actually did a 0.5% hike, which is a surprise interest increase. And my take over here is Bank of England is unlikely gonna stop hiking, simply because inflationary pressure is still very, very high over there. And therefore, we are likely gonna see the pound being one of the stronger currencies going into the end of the year, right? So of course you can then look at buying the pound against some of the relatively weaker currencies. The dollar may be one of it. Of course you can also look into like yen, right? In the long run, or even like euro side of things. But euro is a bit of tricky side, right? So generally for pound dollar, if you're looking at potential buy, I think fundamental it can't align with that. Okay. So what I'm looking over here, let me just also add in this little label, right? Basically, this is a 3-wave potential move. Okay, we are looking at completion around the zone to complete wave 4, and then we'll look for a buy opportunity back up. So that's the opportunity for this week in terms of pound dollar, bullish. Again, you need to have a clear setup that you are familiar with, right? So for me, a setup over here is essentially if you can get a crawl, okay, that would be a nice little setup for a trade to the upside. Alternatively, if we see a V shape, okay, and then maybe going down to the hourly time frame, we see a small little pullback, that's also a setup to take the trade to the upside. Okay, so this one here, it may come to us maybe on Wednesday or Thursday, okay, for us to look for a buy trade in terms of the GBP USD. Another major here is the Aussie. Okay, so Aussie actually made a pretty nice drop. If we recall correctly, I think I did mention in one of our Monday session as well, when the market actually made a very, very strong push without any kind of significant or decent pullback, we always would anticipate that, especially in the currency market. And that's what we actually got, right? So the idea again is you may not want to be selling it, or you may not want to do a counter trend trade. But whenever you see an extended move without any kind of decent correction or pullback, okay, just don't be too aggressive in buying it up anymore, because you always want to wait for a pullback. Okay, so in terms of Aussie right now, what we have is we did have this pullback towards that 50% mark. We are seeing price stall a little bit over here. So we're just being neutral, because what can happen is this can do a little bit of a corrective pullback and we can expect more to the downside. Another structure that may develop is if this does a crawl, then of course we'll be more interested in the upside, right, to complete the bigger 1, 2, 3. What can also happen, of course, is a V-shaped bounce, right? If that's a V-shaped bounce, then we'll wait for a pullback to buy as well to complete the bigger 1, 2, 3. The only setup that I may not be interested in is if this does a correction here, I may not be interested in the sell, because this sell can just tag the 618 and bounce, right? So the sell trade is not an ideal area to be looking into, simply because we are at this zone where there's a good chance of a reversal eventually. So Aussie dollar, I'm neutral, just basically patiently waiting for a potential to get involved in the buy trade. Okay, but that may or may not come this week. Okay, so my primary focus is definitely not going to be on Aussie, but it's definitely on the Euro first. Okay, and then we have the dollar Canadian. So dollar Canadian, as of last week, we were looking at an initial push back up. that didn't really happen impulsively. So right now, overall, we're looking at this as maybe a fifth wave diagonal, which will take some time to complete it, right? Again, you can see this is basically quite an extended move without any form of a decent correction or pullback. So whenever we see something like this, we are not too keen in selling it around this area. The chance and the probability of price, just falling off like that is very, very low. Okay, so if you're not into counter trend trading, okay, at least don't sell. There's no need for you to jump into a buy if you're not a counter trend trader, because obviously the trend is down right now. But if you're more of a counter trend trader, then you want to start looking for potential reversal trade. So for me, I'm being patient. Again, I want to see something like this. Then I have a key low, a key high, a key level here that I can use for a breakout. Okay. If that doesn't happen and this just push off like this, then I'll wait for a pullback to get involved in the buy. Okay. So again, my directional bias, you can see I'm interested in buying it simply because of the philosophy where this has dropped quite significantly without any pullback. We're always anticipating that pullback to come. Okay. So I'm just basically waiting for a setup to get involved in the trade. Okay. So that's on the dollar CAD side. And then we have the dollar yen. Okay. So dollar yen is neutral here. I'm not too keen in buying it because there are a couple of reasons where we may see some kind of a reaction to the downside. So the first one here you can see is on the 4-hour. We basically have this channel. We're testing the top of it. I'm not too keen in buying at the top, obviously. The other one is on the higher time frame. Okay, basically on the daily structure, you can see that we do have this as a drop, and then this is a 3-wave move. There's a good chance this may complete and we may see a bigger move to the downside, right? If you're following on some of the financial news development, one of the key primary event that may drive the yen stronger is going to be the development in Russia. Okay, again, the market doesn't like uncertainty, right? And war developments are always creating uncertainty in the market. Okay, so if over the weekend there are some developments in that aspect, right? So if that kind of get serious, we may see a risk-off environment, and that would result in the yen strengthening. And that may be a catalyst, right? That may be a sentiment that move the yen, right? Obviously, we won't know exactly when that's gonna happen, but at least from a price chart perspective, you wouldn't want to be buying at the top right now, right? You'd be more interested in see if you can get a sell down. Now, I'm not too aggressive in selling this in terms of dollar yen. I want to see price actually break off this low here first in a very impulsive way, and then wait for a pullback before I kind of commit to the sell trade. Okay, so just being patient on dollar yen as a whole, right? But I'll be more interested to sell it when we get the opportunity to do it, and when we have a valid kind of entry set up. Okay, XAU also neutral for this week. The reason is quite similar to what we are seeing here in terms of dollar Canadian. So the market is coming down, but in a very, very, very corrective manner. Okay, so I'm not too keen in selling here, right? Again, you don't want to be selling at the bottom, then after that price starts to bounce. So what I'm waiting here is essentially for a first impulse push. Okay, ideally break this high in a very strong manner. If it can break that trend line, it will be better, and then we'll wait for the pullback to get involved in the buy. Okay, now what can happen over here is this can break the high, but if it doesn't go just very, very correctively, then we're anticipating one more drop. Okay? But I'm not too keen in that sell simply because, as I mentioned, selling here with potential target here, this may not be very attractive. Okay, at least from a swing trade perspective, it may not be very attractive. So gold, I'm basically neutral this week. Playing the wait and see kind of like role, right? You just wait for price to develop, see how it develops. Then maybe, when we get some clarity in terms of the patterns, in terms of the direction you want to take, then we'll look into the setups. Right? So gold here is neutral. Crude oil. Okay, so crude oil over here, I'm actually short-term bullish. Okay, so you can see this development. We have basically two channels here, right? One is a downward sloping channel. This is a upward sloping channel. Channels are always very useful in telling us a corrective structure, right? So you can see the white channel is telling us this is a corrective structure to the upside. The yellow channel is telling us this overall is a corrective channel to the downside. Okay, so corrective move usually means that it's temporary in the particular direction, right? In other words, you can see this is going up, but it's going up very slow, which means there's a good chance at this point we may see one more drop. Okay, the chance of that is higher. And then we have the yellow one, which is coming down very correctively. So what it means is there's a good chance when this comes back down, we would see another push back up. Okay, so you can use some form of a channel technique to give you some visual guidance as well, right? So crude oil, short term, we're looking at upside, maybe with a target around $73 around here, and then we'll look for another sell opportunity maybe next week, right? So this week here, we're looking at short term upside on crude oil. Market in terms of the US equities, we did see this pullback coming towards 236 and 382 fits. Potentially this may complete the wave 4 structure here, but for me, I would always be a little bit more patient and see if we can really get a 3-wave move instead, right? I mean, usually the market likes to develop in 3. Okay, so this is basically just one move, right? So if you can get a pullback and then another dip maybe to 382, then I think this would be definitely more, I would be more confident in buying here as compared to maybe looking for a buy here, right? Yeah, so for me, again, S&P basically gonna be a little bit more patient in terms of waiting for that 3-wave development first, right, before committing to the buy. But overall, the direction is basically upside, right? Not so into the sell. Overall, equities in the US is definitely transiting into a bull market, right? So you definitely want to focus more on the buy side of things. Just wait for a setup to come to you. All right. So that's on the S&P side of things. GBP, JPY, we are potentially looking at a potential sell trade. Just being a little bit more patient here as well. Waiting for an impulsive drop to break this low around 181.2. If you can get that break, okay, and more importantly, the break of this neckline here as a potential double top, that would open up a huge downside opportunity, right? Again, the market has extended quite a bit without any significant pullback. We always would anticipate that pullback. In other words, don't try to go and buy here. I don't think, again, you want to be getting involved in it. Of course, unless you have your own individual strategy that say otherwise, right? But from my perspective, I will not be buying at this top. Okay, I'll be more keen in the sell, wait for the break, wait for the confirmation, then we'll look into the sell trade. Euro pound here, quite similar to the structure development of crude oil. So you can see channel structure, basically we're expecting a little bit more of the upside, so short-term upside. If this is going to be developing as a channel, then we can expect more drop, right? More downside after which. So this week, short-term, potentially towards 8650. Okay, that will be the target to look out for. Aussie yen over here, primarily we are looking at this coming down quite correctively. So in terms of a 3-wave move, this would likely develop into something like this. Okay, likely something like this, and then this may start to transit back to the upside, right? So short-term bearish, but once the market come back towards maybe 94.7 or 94.2, you may want to be flipping that, right? So the idea again is a significant, we have a significant push up, right? This is developing basically the retracement of it. Okay, so kind of reset this move, and then if that's the case, if it comes down correctively, we can expect more upside, right? So that's on Aussie yen. Nothing there. Bitcoin. Okay, so if you're looking at crypto market, we did have a very impulsive break, right? So if I can't put the trend line there, we did break this channel as well, and very sharp move. Internally, we may, I did not put this in, but basically we can also see a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 and 5 is this. So we may start to see a deeper pullback. Okay, now it may not go back to a 50% mark over here. This pullback may simply just be something like that. okay, maybe breaking this low, and then it can start to hit higher. It doesn't need to come to the 50. This is just for reference. So what you're looking out for, basically, any pullback, any corrective pullback can be seen as a buy trade opportunity, right? So it doesn't need to go to 50, but the idea is if you see a clear three-wave corrective pullback, okay, that will be a buy trade opportunity for Bitcoin, or even Ethereum, right? Essentially the crypto market. If Bitcoin and Ethereum goes, usually the entire crypto market will follow suit. Right, so those are some of the opportunities to kind of sum up a little bit in terms of like which are the ones that I'm putting a little bit more emphasis and focus on. Definitely the euro dollar, okay, pound dollar here as well, but I think pound dollar may not come as fast as the euro. Euro, again, as I mentioned, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday you see the setup, you can take the trade. Pound dollar over here, likely Wednesday or Thursday, because if this is going to develop a crawl, it takes time. If it's going to do a V shape followed by a pullback, it takes time. Okay, so these two are definitely my primary ones to keep an eye on. And then I'm also interested in the pound yen. Okay, but basically I want to see that break, as I mentioned. Okay, so this one here is more like if it happens. Okay, if the break happens, the duration you need to give it, probably the setup will only come maybe on Thursday or Friday. Okay, so those are some of the things to note. Okay, I mean, pound yen and Aussie yen. Pound yen is more of a downside potential reversal trade. Aussie yen, I already have a sell over there. Back at the 618, so that trade is basically already risk free. I'm just looking at, can we get this drop towards like 94.7, 94.2. That's it, right? So if you don't have any sell, I think you may want to put your attention more on the pound yen trade. Okay, and Aussie yen, you may not be interested in the sell for now, depending again in your risk appetite. But maybe you'll be more interested when price comes down here and look for a buy instead. Okay, yeah. So those are some of the quick updates in terms of the outlook for this week, as well as the opportunities to keep an eye on for the week. Cool. Okay, good. Any questions that you guys have? Feel free to type it into the chat. Let's just scan through very quickly. Okay. Okay. So I think someone asked like euro pound, where I'm looking for potential targets. Basically the level of euro pound for potential short term buy is somewhere around 8,650, right? So that's the level to look up for in terms of euro pound target. Okay. Good. Okay, I'm just basically scanning through. Any questions? Okay, so I see over here, one of you, James, is asking about Hong Kong, which is Hang Seng, right? Okay. Okay, so Hang Seng actually had I mean, you look at the pattern here, it's basically very, very much like the Aussie dollar chart, right? Because that's the main reason Aussie actually sold off last week, because the Chinese and the Hong Kong equities market actually take a dip. Okay. So right now, if I were to look at this, right, we're basically testing the 618. So the whole analysis in terms of the structure and the pattern of it is quite similar to Aussie dollar. Okay, so basically Aussie dollar, we're neutral. So right now on Hang Seng HSI over here, we're also basically neutral. Again, I'm more keen to see if we can get a V-shaped bounce, okay, followed by a corrective move. I think the upside is more interesting to pay attention to, as compared to, if this does a correction as compared to this sell. The main reason is, okay, the main reason, let me share with you, is mainly on a higher time frame. Okay, I'm not too convicted in further downside, right? I mean, from what we're looking at the daily perspective over here, we may have completed this bigger structure and we may start to go up, right? So naturally, I'm more interested in the upside based on this pattern. Okay, I don't personally invest or trade very actively in Hang Seng. Okay, but in terms of like patterns, basically I'm more into the upside based on just the technical analysis portion of things, right? So that's my view on Hang Seng. Okay, quite similar to Aussie dollar actually in short. Okay, Jason asked about Euro Yen. Now Euro Yen actually is one of the yen pairs that may not be the best in my watch list. Okay, I mean if you look at structure wise, just compare Euro Yen and Pound Yen. Pound Yen looks cleaner in terms of that potential divergence and double top. I mean Euro Yen here we do have that divergence as well. Okay, but the internal movement of this is not as clean as the Pound Yen, right? I mean this little move here compared to Pound, you can see, right, smaller candles. To me Pound Yen looks nicer, right? Those are just personal preference, okay, choice. But the analysis overall is the same. We kind of get a divergence here. So my take is I would not be buying at the top. I'll be more interested in see if we can get a reversal on Euro Yen. Okay, so of course you want to wait for kind of like price breaking some of these levels impulsively to give us the confirmation that it indeed starts to go down, and then wait for a pullback, and then you get involved in that sell trade on Euro Yen. Okay. Okay, is one asked how to use Elliott Wave together with the normal trend following strategies. You can actually complement them together, right? So let me just very quickly walk you through an idea, right? I mean, in terms of like trend following strategies, let's just take very simple ones like let me just go to forward. Right, let's just take very simple one in terms of structure break and retest. Okay. So for example, like euro dollar, the Elliott Wave analysis that we've done over here, okay, essentially is we wait for a pullback and then we look to sell, right? Basically we're trading the ABC move. Okay, so if you're doing kind of like a trend analysis, right? So if you're looking at, this is a low, price has violated that low, and then we have a pullback, so potentially this may start to transit into a downtrend. Again, then this pullback area would be a potential sell opportunity, right? So kind of align quite nicely with Elliott Wave as well. And of course, if you kind of take this low here, then of course we have higher high, higher low. If you look at it from that perspective, then this is an uptrend, right? So what will happen is, of course, when this pulls back, maybe back towards this level here, that will be your resistance, turn support, you'll be looking for the buy, right? Okay, so then that becomes a trend continuation. And in terms of Elliott Wave, we're basically looking at ABC, right? So this is where the C wave may complete and we start to look for upside as well. So kind of complement quite nicely in this example, right? So that's something you can look into, right? Where you can kind of combine, the Elliott Wave analysis with maybe some of the strategies or techniques they're a little bit more comfortable with. Okay. Good. Okay. So we did Hang Seng. If you take a look at A50, which is China, right? China is relatively weaker than the Hang Seng chart, right? So this one actually did a very deep pullback. Okay. To the extent that this seems to be doing a little bit more of a V. So what I'll be looking at, the slight difference between A50 and HSI would be, I'll expect this to maybe come back and retest this bottom, maybe a little bit of a double bottom structure before the push, which is different from my view on Hang Seng, right? Because Hang Seng, we're looking at that 618 support where it can start to bounce, but A50 here we don't get it. Okay, so China seems to be a little bit more weaker to the downside as compared to Hang Seng. But again, these two charts tend to move quite similarly. Okay, so in short, I would suggest to just stay away from A50 for now. I think there's a little bit more downside potential to retest the previous bottom. Whereas Hong Kong this week, you can start to pay attention. If you can get a bounce up, then potential buy trade. Okay, but China here, there isn't much of a nice area to start looking for buy. Okay. So I think that's the slight difference between A50 and HSI right now. Okay, yeah. So I think overall those are the questions that we may have. Good. Okay. So those are the few things to take note for the week. To kind of just quickly wrap up over here. In terms of like June, we're basically ending the session. Ending the month anyway. So few events that are upcoming over here. Let me just pull out my calendar in a while. Yeah. So a few upcoming events that we'll be having in July. Okay, just to keep you guys updated. One of it that we're having is the in collaboration with a trading.live, right? So this session is, I also stream it to trading.live. We do have a offline event on the 8th of July. Okay, that's actually organized by trading.live. If you're based in KL, do check it out. Okay. Another event that's upcoming. Okay, so the session here is also concurrently conducted and organized, hosted by Everything Trading. Okay. And Zenfinix, right? So the other session that we're gonna have in July is gonna be on the 15th of July and 22nd of July, right? Okay, this event is by Everything Trading. This is basically this Saturday. What we're gonna talk about in these 2 days, 15th and 22nd of July. We'll be talking about market correlation. Okay, and how you can actually use it as part of a strategy to actually trade the market. Okay, so we'll be talking about this very, very specific strategy. The other one that I mentioned just now is basically 8th of July. That's organized and hosted by trading.live. So that one, I will be talking about cryptocurrencies trading. Okay. So all of these events are basically happening in KL and PJ. If you are around in this area, and you'd like to actually join RSVP, okay, right now what you can do is, for those of you who are now participating this in Zoom, okay, you actually will see a link that when you click it, it'll direct you to a WhatsApp where you can RSVP for the event. If you're watching on YouTube stream right now, the WhatsApp link can be found in the description box below, right? So you can click on the link, it will lead you over to WhatsApp. You just RSVP with the team over there. Okay. Alternatively, okay, give me a while. Okay, alternatively, you can go over to this link here. Okay, basically it's Linktree, right, / Karyong. This one here you can see, right, the second link, RSVP for upcoming events, is basically the WhatsApp link as well, right? So if you click onto that, it'll bring you over to WhatsApp. You can RSVP with the team for the upcoming events, right? Do make sure you RSVP before you join, okay, because they need to prepare the seats for you, right, especially on the 15th and the 22nd of July. These 2 dates, they are the same content, okay, so you can, of course, you are welcome to join us for both if you feel that you like to, but we'll be talking about the same thing on both days, right? So you can either make it on the 15th or you can make it on the 22nd. Good. Okay, so that's all from me for today. Okay, all the best to your trading for this week over here. Okay, do manage your risks, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, till then, all the best to you guys. Bye bye.